So on this very day 11 years ago, I walked into Red's Barbecue restaurant in the city of Leeds, United Kingdom. That's my motherland, if you can't tell from the accent. Most of you know now I'm several years relocated. I was with friends, I had a pulled pork burger, and shortly after finishing the thing, I looked down at my then empty plate and declare, I think that's probably the last time that I eat meat. Here we are 11 years later, and bar anything unknown, that has held true. Shortly after said burger, the last hurrah, I would say as memory serves, within about 7 to 10 days, the dairy products, including eggs, milk, of course, cheese, they're all gone as well. I've had several slip-ups over the years. What I can very hand-on-heart say, because the ethical aspect of this vegan lifestyle is so near and dear to me as well. I know I don't talk about it so much here, but that's actually how it started for me, would you believe? It's morphed into other things too, and obviously Slim and Sustain. We're talking primarily about the health application of this lifestyle, but the ethical really is the bedrock, it's the foundation for me. And, you know, what I can hand on heart say is, yes, any slip-ups have been totally unintentional. I remember a moment in France where the waiter comes running over to me after I start tucking into what I believe, after speaking with him thoroughly on the subject, in my finest French, which is pretty diabolical, I concede, that the vegetarian brothy soup starter was indeed vegan. He comes running over and says, no, that's the beef. I'm sure he was saying, désolé, sorry, that's the beef. Whips it out of my hands and I'm a couple of spoonfuls in. I remember on a ski trip in perhaps Italy, Austria, maybe it was. I later checked that the beer I had, a bit of a mishap there, likely wasn't a vegan beer. And I'm sure these are just things that spring to mind. There's about 1 or 2 things that happen every year where I find out after the fact, even with quite thorough checking around it. I'm not naive about this stuff after 10 years, 11 years now, we can say, living this way intentionally. Yeah, there have been some slip-ups, in other words. But I think we can quite earnestly and honestly say, in terms of intentions, it's never going to be quite perfect. And I had those novice first few months as well, where I'm finding gelatin in things and discovering how many things egg whites are in, egg white powder, in chips, etc, etc, etc. But I think we can quite fairly and earnestly say I've now just hit 11 years intentionally, getting the animal products out of my diet. And wow, oh wow, this has been incredible for me. And the thing that I was completely wrong about is that it would stay with me this long. I was such a hobbyist, phasey person. I think we all have that in our childhood years where we jump from one sport or one hobby, one activity to another. We've all done that. I actually continued that in my early adulthood as well, to be honest. And so I tried every diet and nutrition practice under the sun that I could find on YouTube. This was 2014-15, YouTube was starting to get really, really big. Now everyone watches YouTube for fun, but like that was weird. Oh, well, you watch YouTube videos back in like 13, 14, 15. But that's how I learned about all this nutrition stuff and the world of weight loss and diets, etc, etc. So I turned my attention to this lifestyle, probably at the time thinking, you know, this is going to be a similar phase for me like that other stuff. Well, like I say, when that ethical aspect really, really clicked for me, that chucked me into a different gear, a different dimension, to where I really created a boundary with my old self. And not knowing precisely what the composition of my diet looked like, that declaration to myself that's held steady all these years of being like, but we don't go back to the animal products, because the very idea of doing that for me personally, the idea of eating an animal or a byproduct of an animal, I can't. I know I don't talk about it much here, but I just, like, I don't talk about it much here, partly because I can't articulate how much that just, it's just, that is abhorrent to me. That is, calm, Ryan. This is supposed to be a celebratory video. But anyway, that declaration, that boundary with myself, but the fact that I've stayed true to like this healthy whole food approach in all of this time, I think that's the thing I was completely wrong about, that it wouldn't just be a phase or a trend for me or a means to an end just to get the scale moving, and then maybe I'd integrate animal products after that again, or go back to more junky foods, flexible dieting like I was doing for about 18 months prior as well. No, I've I've really landed on something that has stood the test of time. And obviously I've refined it over the years and documented it all here, like a nutter on the internet. Come to the circus, come to the freak show and watch my diet experiments over the years. But what I like is, actually, I haven't changed my mind on much, because I think I landed on something that was genuinely fantastic for me. And I think it's all about templates, right? Like, there's so much information overwhelm online now. Since I started making YouTube videos, it feels like everyone makes YouTube videos. It feels like everyone wants to be an influencer. Everyone's giving their opinion, their hot take, even if it's not asked for, on XYZ subjects on the internet now. That's the way the discourse and debate has gone, not just nutrition, but across the spectrum of cultural conversation topics, let's say. But nutritionally, like, everyone is so confused, hearing all these conflicting opinions back and forth, so tribal and polarized about things as well. They decide which team they're going to be on, and then there's no sort of nuanced middle ground. And it's tedious. It's really tedious watching. It's nice though. I have so much peace of mind watching the circus, watching the freak show, and going, well, I'm glad I found my thing and this vehicle that has really changed my life. It's been amazing. But yeah, like I say, I digress. It's all about giving people templates. What I've really landed on is 3 big meals per day. When you want to slim down, get yourself in a calorie deficit, don't actually track the calories, but build those 3 meals to a certain calorie ballpark just once, and then you know what the calories are forever, for the rest of your life, until you want to add a new meal into rotation. You don't need that many anyway. You only need 5 or 6 meals every week. So work out the calories of each meal, and then you'll know that you're in the right range. Couple of snacks around that, account for those too, and you'll fly down the scale on 3 meals per day with no weird intermittent fasting, no carb cutting, still eating an adequate amount of protein, even though we're doing the deficient vegan thing. You're going to be weak and skinny. Nah, adequate protein. It's a breeze on this lifestyle. Getting a decent amount of those healthy fats in too, but not so much that it stacks your calories. You know, hitting around minimum 40-50 grams of fiber per day, this being absolutely brilliant for staying in that calorie deficit and dropping body fat so nicely compared to all the other extreme dieting methods that are popular on the internet nowadays. Now, for me, I'm up at like 60 grams of fiber per day, but I just say a rule of thumb for people that don't eat as much, don't need as much food for me, like 40 grams. If you can get to 40 grams of fiber per day, wow, you're just doing an incredible job. And that's it for me. That's the framework. 90% whole foods, 10% wiggle room, flexibility, still having meals out. So this is real world. Like, it's a really simple template and formula. And again, that's what I talk about here because I live it. I talk about it so passionately here. People resonate with it, I think, because I live it, because I really worked out something that is sustainable real world. And for a lot of other people, they've looked at it and gone, okay, that's sustainable too, Ryan. I really like this. I really resonate. And I think that's why we're looking at 11 years in now, because it isn't complicated. It's quite a simple template. Like, I'm not even a big exercise advocate, really, am I? Just hit the daily steps. If you're in the calorie deficit, you fly. When you get to maintenance, it's so easy to sustain on this lifestyle, as long as you don't go back to really bad patterns and habits. And that's a different question entirely. But again, that's why I talk about so much about mindset, the behavioral aspect to this. And I've got videos on emotional eating, cravings. These are my videos that get the best feedback as well, and how to prevent that constant rebounding cycle, etc. Like, these are the videos that resonate with you most of all, because that behavioral transformational piece is so critical beyond the nutrition strategy, which is just the surface level, man, tip of the iceberg stuff. And yeah, I think all of that encompassed, it's quite a simple template, but where people go wrong is they're so confused, dragged in different directions, jumping ship so easily, getting distracted. And no wonder I have empathy for it, but I'm also sat here now 11 years in going, I'm so glad that I just trusted this process, stuck with it. And yes, I made all the mistakes along the way to figure out what the right process was. So I've made all the same mistakes everyone else does, but the test of time, so slow and steady really does win the race. Man, it's cringe, man, it's cliche, but I have had when you watch my physique development over the years, when you track the amount of binge eating and how that's reduced over the years, I have a really slow transformation, but I genuinely, hand on heart, maybe it's a bit of copium for slow progress at times, but I hand on heart, I'm so glad it's been slow, because that's allowed me to channel a very stable mindset around food and avoid this, just the crazy yo-yoing and the instant gratification, the desperation for immediate results that I used to fall into in the past, and I watch so many people sadly fall into. And I got a comment today, I think it was on YouTube, on one of my posts where I talked about how I manipulate my calories when I quote unquote cheat on my diet, and the person said, paraphrasing. This is not really fair on said person because I am paraphrasing, but words to the effect of, you call that cheating, I call the cheating 10 pints of beer and a 3-course meal. And I replied to that words to the effect of, you know what, thank you for the reminder of how far I've come, because even though they're doing a bit of a, oh, you think that's bad, mate comment, or here's my problem, here's what I struggle with, suggesting that I'm kind of being sanctimonious with my version of cheating. That was never the intention at all. It never is, because I know what it's like to be the other end of the spectrum. I've lived this, I've been there, and that's why, again, another reason why this channel is so important to me, to just, I don't want to say give back, so charitable, man, so philanthropic, but it's so important to document this stuff, because I realise, even though it's now 10 years ago, 11 years ago, this is how far I've come, and it hasn't been perfect. And that was me. I was the kind of person 11 years ago that would leave a comment like that on a YouTube channel as well. Like, oh, you think that's cheating, mate? I'm a binge eater. I can do 6,000 calories in 2 hours. Yeah, that would have been me coming with that kind of energy. And it's just not the way. I don't blame that person. I've been there, but yeah, it's just not the way. It's just not the way. So yeah. Love this lifestyle. So glad to have found a simple template. I was so wrong that it would be a trend for me. It really has stood the test of time. Thank you to you all for being part of it, for giving giving feedback, comments, etc., encouragement over the years. And I'm not going to do some cliche thing, cheesy, again, sanctimonious thing where I say, oh, I wouldn't do it without your guys' comments, etc., because I'm so passionate about this that I think I'll probably make videos and try to do this anyway, and try and make a living as best as I could out this anyway. But no, the feedback that you guys provide, of course it incentivizes me, of course it encourages me. And yeah, we're about to hit, I'm about two new clients away from hitting 675 clients onto Slim and Sustain. That's actually crazy. 675 clients coached since, when was it, 2019, back end of 2019, early 2020. So that is so cool. And that's when I left my job full-time as well, to go full-time with this stuff. And yeah, that I have to be really thankful for. So thank you. And also thanks to, the figureheads in this space, the people that really pioneered this movement, the McDougalls, the Barnards, etc., because while I have my micro, the people overblow, but my micro disagreements with other teachers in my space, because who doesn't? You have little disagreements, you see the world differently to your best friend, or I should hope you do anyway. These are not even big deals, these are like little 1 or 2% issues. As much as I have those disagreements, and I've talked recently about what I don't like about the 50-50 play, or Nutritarian from Dr. Furman, etc., what I concede is I stand on the shoulders of giants. And thank you to this plant-based, this whole foods plant-based approach, because without it, no, I wouldn't be here. There is a lot of other stuff on top, like I say, the consistency, the behavioral stuff, the mindset stuff. I give myself a pat on the back for how I fixed those habits and really changed it. It was in that YouTube comment where I was like, wow, I really have changed with the binge eating. It still happens, but it's no way near as bad anymore. And it just gives me perspective that, wow, if you just keep going, like even if it's up and down, up and down, up and down, you do slowly wean yourself off of the food addictions, out of the bad habits. Your binges get less and less frequent, less and less severe with each passing year. Your relationship with food improves 10% each year. You get 3% leaner each year. Like, these are all small little things, but again, you do this for a decade, over a decade now for me, and that really does stack up. And then you start then getting like steroid accusations, or people have started writing to me saying, are you definitely not on a GLP-1? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Do you know how long I've been? Firstly, I'd be transparent about that if I ever do. I really will. But I have watched my progress be so slow over so many years. So when someone who's just found me says now, you sure you're not on a GLP-1, mate? You're shredded, you're really lean. Thank you very much, that's super kind. I don't consider myself shredded or super lean, but thank you, that's really kind. But like, you haven't seen the backlog, man. You haven't seen the journey, you haven't seen the work, you haven't seen the late night binges, getting up in the morning saying, no, we get back to it today. You haven't seen all those moments. So that I give myself a pat on the back for, but This plant-based methodology, I have to be grateful to people other than me, and just itself, this way of eating being so compelling and captivating, the data looking so brilliant on it, but also then anecdotally, because we're all talking about science nowadays, and data, what does the data show? Let's look at the meta-analyses, and that's good. But anecdote is still science. Anecdote matters as well. We should not overemphasize it, but for me, anecdotally, soon as I started doing this, the good wins start coming. My acne was reducing within 2 to 3 weeks. My weight was dropping. The way I felt digestion-wise was so much better. Yes, there have been hiccups along the way, but man, I love this lifestyle. Thank you. Thank you. See you soon.